Hello, everyone, and welcome to Radio Northampton and to our inaugural podcast. I'm John Sabastano, your host. Radio Northampton is brand new, and it's going to be a mix of interesting guests, both studio and remote. And it's going to serve to inform you about events in town and up the seacoast. On the inaugural show, we thought we would invite our new town administrator, although he has been here for a year, so I don't know when the word new wears out.
Yeah, I'm past the honeymoon, certainly.
Yeah. Bryan Kaenrath, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Good morning. Appreciate it.
Bryan, some people equate the select board as this or the town administrator as that. Could you clear that up for us? What is your role as town administrator, and what differentiates it from select board?
Yeah, thank you. It's a common question. So basically, the town administrator is responsible for day-to-day operations of the town, management of personnel, management of all the departments, project management, budget preparation. So it's really, in many ways, the chief administrative officer of the town. And the select board differs really in that the select board sets policy. So they pick a direction, they set the policy, the town administrator implements that policy. So it's an important relationship. We like to have a sort of symbiotic relationship where we really work together to try to get things done. But so they're really the policy arm, and I'm really the implementing and the daily operations arm. So that's the real difference.
So much like the executive officer on an aircraft carrier steers the ship, but the air boss launches the planes.
That's correct. That's a good analogy. Yeah, something like that.
Right. Always something going on in town. Everything's in a state of motion, if you will, and especially with DPW and other people. But what are the projects that stick out right now? They're getting as spring comes along and we can see the ground again.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, with spring coming along, we're still trying to get through a backlog of maintenance projects. As you might know, we're going to be doing some renovation work on this building here, our town hall, our historic town hall. With some historically minded contractors. So that's going to be a big project for us. There are some other town buildings and properties we're doing some maintenance on, catching up on some deferred maintenance. So that's going to be coming up this spring. We're also looking to always looking to modernize and streamline our operations. So we're going to be looking at a document management system that's going to digitize our records and help us access things more easily, and that should also help the public in trying to get some of the records that we have. You know, as a town government, we are loaded with paper, we're loaded with documents. We have to keep so many things for X number of years, and so this system is really going to help us get that together, organize it, and hopefully make things more accessible to the public also. So we've got that on deck. We're doing some policy rewrites, updating internal policies, updating position descriptions. So, you know, we have a lot going on, but, you know, with that in mind, we're always looking to modernize, streamline, and make things more efficient and effective for the taxpayers that we serve. It's
sort of like part of the modern age. I mean, even with technology and equipment and especially video equipment and computers, things change almost. Change is a constant.
Yep, you have to keep on top of it.
Yeah, you really do. With that in mind, what do you see are the biggest challenges facing the town right now?
Yeah, you know, one thing I'll throw out there first of all is we have our Route 1 business corridor, and you know, attracting and retaining good businesses in that area is always a challenge. You know, recently we have a few vacant storefronts out there. So I think the economic development piece and trying to be a business-friendly community is always a big priority for us, and we want to stay on top of that and keep working with local businesses to make sure that they're successful and partner with them however we can. That said, we're also always looking to, as I said, have an efficient government, keep our tax rate low, keep good services for the community, and get the best bang for our buck. So we're always looking for ways we can again modernize and streamline our government to more effectively serve citizens of this town. And you know, we're always mindful of that tax rate. We want people to stay here. We want young families to move in here and be able to afford it. And we also want our senior citizens to be able to live in the same house they lived in for a long time and be able to afford it and live comfortably here. So those are, I think, some of our top of line priorities. But as you know, we grapple with a number of things on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Well, that's all good stuff, Bryan. And I want you to hang with us here just for a few minutes. We're going to take some time out for some community notes. We'll be right back with Town Administrator Bryan Kaenrath. And we're back here on Radio Northampton with our guest town administrator, Bryan Kaenrath. I'm your host, John Sabastano, and this, of course, is the inaugural podcast. Pleased to have Bryan with us to kick off this effort of Northampton Community Media. Bryan, citizen involvement is key to the success of any town, whether it's from the school perspective or the town perspective. How can people get more involved if they're out there and there might be people who just enjoy watching 22, but and that's that, okay? And people are busy, and you 2.5 kids and stuff like that.
Yep.
May not be able to get involved. But if you were, how can a citizen get involved?
So we're always looking to have an engaged citizenry and an engaged population in town. So first of all, I'd encourage people to watch Channel 22, be engaged in the meetings that are going on. Know what the like we just talked about, the major issues facing the town are. We broadcast so much on Channel 22. We put a lot of information out there on our website and other places. So number one, I'd say try to stay engaged. A lot of important things do happen here that impact people's lives. If you want to get more engaged, we have, as you know, so many boards and committees and volunteer opportunities here in town that people can take part in. We're always looking for new members of boards and committees. We have a number of them in a wide array of policy areas to really meet anyone's interest. We always have other volunteer opportunities. We have lots of events in town. We have Memorial Day coming up. There's lots of ways to pitch in, get involved. Meet some of your neighbors, make some new friends, and I think it's been, mostly a positive experience for most people that have done it. So we always encourage people to get involved at any of those levels.
Anytime you go up to the town office, it's very busy. People coming up constantly. The elevator goes up, the elevator goes down, and anything from permits to complaints to beach stickers and stuff like that. But if anyone has a concern or an idea, as far as that getting involved, what should they do?
Well, I want to put myself out there first, because I do approach this job not just as keeping the trains running on time and the wheels on the bus going round and round, but one of my other priorities is trying to get out there as much as possible. Community engagement, public engagement, showing my face around town. It's a reason I wanted to do this here today. So I'd encourage people to contact me. I'm always available. And also, I'll just say our select board. We have 3 very accessible, good people on our select board that are more than willing to try to take on helping people with any of their concerns. So I'll throw them out there too. Another thing I'll mention is I'm doing monthly town administrators open office hours events where we usually have them on the 4th Monday of the month, but check the town calendar for the updated schedule, where anyone can come in. It's just me. I'm sitting there, and any concerns, ideas, questions, complaints on your mind, I'd love to hear them and try to help if there's a way we can help. So I'm trying to be as accessible as possible, and so please, people should feel free to reach out to me at Town Hall or our select board, or as I said, there's a number of our committee chairs of our various boards and committees that are also very willing to work with people on any issues they may have. So don't ever hesitate to try to get in touch with us is the message. And
through a very informative website that the town has.
Absolutely, and we put a lot of information on it. We update it constantly. And if you look around, I'd say our website is tops. for what we put on there, the content, and really you can see almost anything you would ever want to see on our website.
Is it true that the administrators' monthly meetings, if you come, bring cookies?
Well, often there are cookies there. We have a couple residents in town that are kind enough to come and deliver cookies. So, yeah, usually there are snacks. So it's meat and snacks. So it's kind of a twofer. Yeah.
That's more bang for the buck.
Absolutely.
Brian, thanks again for being
Absolutely.
our guest on our inaugural program of Radio Northampton, our podcast. And obviously through the town, through the offices, they can get in touch with you. But more specifically, you can't beat a one-on-one sitting down with someone and talking about the issue. So I think speaking for myself, but I'm sure the town appreciates everything that you've done over the last years. It's been a great year.
Appreciate that.
So thank you again, Brian, and we'll be back on Radio Northampton after this. And welcome back to Radio Northampton. You know, the NFL draft is just about here. It's about a week away, and I'm like a kid just before Christmas, and it is time to go shopping. And joining us now on the Northampton hotline is former New England Patriot Max Lane. Max, what's going on?
Hey, Johnny Sabb, what's going on?
Well, I tell you, I'm like I said, I'm like a kid just before Christmas Eve, and I don't know what's under the tree. So we thought we would get your thoughts on, at least from an offensive perspective and a defensive perspective. What do you think the Pats are going to do?
You know, the way I see it, you know, Trey Flowers left. You know, that leaves a big hole on the edge. And, you know, being a lineman, I always think you got to, you know, the strength of your team is up front. You know, they always talk about, you know, the cliches or, you know, the game is won and lost up on the front lines. So, you know, I think you got to, you know, do something about the defensive line, you know, primarily a pass rusher, especially with the way offenses are these days. You got to have somebody that can get after the quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. And Troy left a big hole to fill. And speaking of big holes to fill, the other Trent Brown on the other side of the line, the offensive line, Wynn will be coming back off of an injury. Isaiah Wynn. Will they go big there as well? Do you think?
You know, the thing with the offensive line, I think that they've been, you know, even though Trent Brown had a you know, great year, you know, pretty much a mercenary here. Even though that, you know, there's a need there, I think with Dante Scarnecchia, you kind of have, now he hasn't left yet, right? Dante's still there.
The scar is still with us.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other coaches that are floating around, but with Dante, he can put together whatever you need, you know, whatever you have. And so I think that's why you don't usually see them going high in the draft for a lineman, because he's really good at developing young guys and, you know, bringing together whatever he has in the room. and making them work, with an efficient unit. Plus, I still say Tom Brady makes offensive linemen look great. Just the way he's able to move in the pocket and get rid of the ball in a timely fashion, and just make smart, quick decisions. And I think because of those two things, because of Dante and because of Tom, I think that offensive line is never really a worry, even if you don't recognize the names that are on the roster.
Yeah. There's no need for a super all-pro. Although, boy,
Right.
Trent Brown is certainly 66 million reasons better off because
Right.
we passed through here, no doubt about that. So now let's narrow it down to one position. Do we retire the number 87, or as I believe and I tell friends, he'll be back? The big Gronk.
Yeah, I think it's hard to. I think it'd be hard for. I don't know. I can't even lay a percentage on it, but it's just one of those things I think in the back of your mind that you think that, towards the end of the season, if he's, hanging around and, he's always going to stay in shape. I mean,
For sure.
I could see him coming back late in the season or maybe for a playoff run,
Yeah.
That's kind of how I see him now. I still think you got to make plans for, him being gone for good. But there's always a home for him here for sure.
Yeah. It's to me, it's an interesting draft. I mean, I'll be watching it from a warmer clime, but heading south for a little bit on a break. But
There you go.
it's talent. To me, it's talent rich. I mean, you look at the first 2 or 3 rounds. Where you'll be able to dig deep this year, and they have 12 draft picks as well. So the latest info coming in this morning, of course, is the Josh Rosen rumors flying, and that's what this week is for. Things flying around. But
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of probably, from here until the draft, there's going to be a lot of misinformation that fills around because. Teams are trying to hide what they're actually thinking about and everything. So it's hard to tell what things that you're hearing. It's hard to really know what's going to be happening.
Yeah. I was watching a little bit of the documentary on Junior Seau last night, and I hadn't realized that. This, of course, it was on one of the big major networks, and Mel Kiper Jr. had Junior Seau going in the first round to the Patriots, except for a little bit of shenanigans, and he ended up in his hometown team in San Diego. So, yeah, that was news to me. That was 1990. Yeah. So, well, switching gears a little bit here. Of course, the Patriots alumni, they really get out into the community and do a lot of great things for the kids and teaching them football and such, and having programs and obviously autograph signing and such. You're a part of that world. Max, normally people would head to warmer, like I am, to warmer climes to watch a Super Bowl, but you went to get colder. You with the alumni of St. Petersburg, Russia. Tell us about that.
Yeah, our alumni, we're very active locally, and I think. Just before we get into the colder climate, we have a program called Football for You that it's right on my mind because I was on a conference call about it yesterday, getting cranked up for this time of year, for the summer and the good weather, where we put on clinics, free one-day clinics for kids at different sites all throughout New England. And, even get up to the North Shore up in the, I think we do one in Manchester, one in Nashua. And actually they're doing one in Peace, I think, for coming up here in the next couple of weeks. They always try to do something for the military.
Yes.
And, but you can go on patriotsalumni.com and kind of find out about the Football for You program. Just a little bit about that. Now, switching back to your question about colder climates, one of our alumni who's actually played football at UNH, Ilya Zhirashchuk, obviously you can tell by the name he's got some Russian heritage, and he was his parents, were from Russia. They fled Russia during communism, but he was born and raised in upstate New York, but in the Russian culture and lifestyle and everything. So he is, from his experiences and being fluent in Russian, made some connections over there. And there's this group of people that wanted to have him get a couple of Patriots alumni to go over to Russia for the Super Bowl this past February. And let's see, it ended up, bringing Steve Nelson, and then he brought me. And I think he was hoping for somebody a little more current than me, but everybody else had obligations, so I didn't. I've got no ego. So, and I was able to bring my daughter with me, and we went over there for a week, about 8 or 9 days, and spent the first half of the week in St. Petersburg, the second half in Moscow, and we did a football clinic in St. Petersburg for about 60 people, 50 guys and about 15 women. And then we did another one in Moscow for all women. It was about 60 women. They don't have youth football over there yet. Football is just American football is kind of getting off the ground there. And they've got an organization over there called the Federation of American Football that, is organized kind of like club rugby or something over here.
Yes, yeah.
And so it's, we were doing clinics with, people from the ages of like 18 to 35. And, there's several teams in St. Petersburg, several teams in Moscow, and, so a couple, some of the other cities in Eastern Russia. And then the culmination of the whole week was going to the largest Super Bowl party in Russia. And it was amazing. After going there, even though we went there at a time whenever the weather isn't so great, but
yeah.
I would love to go back there. It was a lot of fun, and really changed my outlook on what it's like over in Russia.
Yeah, yeah. It's one big planet. That's for sure.
Yeah, sure is.
Yeah, it sounds like less Zambonis and more turf in Russia. Hey, Max, anybody who steps, as I do a lot, as you know, I love the town of Annapolis. And according to my mom, you're going to Annapolis because Roger Staubach plays there. And that never happened. But anyone who steps into the lobby over at the Naval Academy office gets to meet two legends by way of the Heisman trophies that are sitting there on display. One, of course, is Roger Staubach, but the first one was a really beloved local guy, if you will, Joe Bellino, who passed away recently at the age of 81, the Winchester rifle. You know Joe. I knew him briefly also with a fun little story, but certainly as a member of your brotherhood, and tell us what he meant to Navy football.
Joe was, when I was at school at Navy, he was more of a, just somebody that you never thought you'd ever meet. Kind of all the stories about him, larger than life. Seeing the trophy and the Sports Illustrated cover, and not really knowing what my future held, that I was going to be up in New England. I just thought, wow, what a great guy. Just kind of one of those people that you have on a pedestal that you just think that you'll never meet, that you look up to, and then you hear stories about. And one of the stories that I heard about him going to school down there was they had you're going to school a place like that. The classes are hard. it's a really tough place to go. And but sometimes you get a little break in class where they grade on the curve a little bit. You have a test that's really hard. The teacher kind of helps you out a little bit, and you call it the bell curve. Well, I guess when Joe was in school down there, they had a different kind of curve. They had the Bellino curve, and what that was that if you walked into class and Joe was in your class, as long as you got a better grade than Joe, you were all set, because they weren't gonna give Joe a bad grade.
Yeah, yeah.
That was kind of just folklore. But after later on, when my career brought me up here, I got to start playing in some NFL alumni golf tournaments, and I had the occasion to meet Joe for the first time, and I was just my eyes were just wide open. I'm getting chills kind of now thinking about it. And,
Yeah.
And as the first time I met him, I mean, as soon as I met him, he took all the nervousness and everything out of my body. He was just such a down to earth, kind, but I will say still a man's man. Like the term I use for him, and other people kind of like him is he's just straight out of the locker room.
Yeah.
Like I could have easily, I felt like I was teammates with him right
Wow.
off the bat.
Yeah.
And I think that's a special quality that a lot of people don't have. And but I was able to tell him that story and ask him if that was true, and he kind of laughed and gave the like, I don't know about that, Max, something like that. But then
Yeah.
I went to his memorial service this past weekend, and his son John is an '89 grad of Navy. And I got to talk to him for a bit, and he validated the Baleno Curve story.
All right. It's in the books.
It was
That's
true.
great. That is tremendous. And for sure, the number of times that I've met and talked with Joe over my bouncing little broadcast career or what have you, I can tell people that 10 seconds into meeting him, you've already met, and you've met a quality person who checks off all the boxes as a real gentleman.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, two quick things here before we go. Number one is that the New England Football Writers and the Gridiron Club, you were the Boston Man of the Year for 2018. It was probably a little shocking to you, but there were some great stories, and there is a great video we're going to be sending you, by the way, of that event, so you can hang on to that. We were there for that, and that was a great night.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing that, Johnny. My family was out here and everything, and so it was nice you were able to catch that.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
And all the stories.
They gotta give that award to somebody. It's just it was my turn, I guess.
Yeah. Well, needless to say, some of the people sitting with you on the dais had a few tales. Great. It was a great night. And a lot of great football games were played at night at Georgetown High, and now the Hunter Lane will be moving on to another level. Let's talk about your son, who's going to keep the family football tradition going.
Yeah, he's kind of still in the midst of the recruiting process.
Mm-hmm.
He decided to go to do a post-grad year at Phillips Andover.
Yeah.
So he's pretty excited about that. Kind of give him, another, a little more time to develop physically, although he's really, since football and definitely since basketball season, he's put on about 20 pounds.
Wow.
And he's up to he's like, his height's always been there. He's 6'4", but he's up to 225 now. And, which I think will, make some of the schools that were looking at him last year and we're kind of slow on him because he was, right around the 200 mark. I think it's going to make them look a little closer this time around. And so it's kind of, when you choose to go to that post-grad year, it kind of knocks you back. You basically it puts you back in the next recruiting class, which is the 2020.
Yeah.
So, he'll go to a couple more football camps this summer, and kind of is looked at now as kind of like a junior again, and which I think is a good benefit for him. And I think the experience of going to Andover and kind of take advantage of what that place can provide for you, and make it. Hopefully he'll be able to make the most of it.
And no doubt he will. Hunter is, of course, you can envision with a 225 is, that edge rushing or a tight end position. Actually, he's a man of all trades. He will play. He will play both ways there.
Yeah. So, maybe, who knows? Maybe in 5 years, if New England's still looking for a tight end, maybe we can see how he fits in there.
Actually, Max, we can't thank you enough for joining us. I still believe you hold the record as the tallest NFL player to surf, and paddle an outrigger canoe, eclipsing the rest.
I'm looking at my surfboard right now, Johnny. It's a good yard ornament. I can tell you that much.
Oh man, Max, always great to talk to you. We'll see you down the road. Maybe we're going to dig in and find out where that Peas event is, and like I say, whether it's Channel 22 or for a radio interview, we'll catch up to you. And who's on the road normally with that group? Is Brock there? And
Pete Brock's normally there. It's kind of the alumni that go. It's kind of it kind of depends on where it is. Like
sure.
A lot, and then it's never the same.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to tell. But there's usually a good contingent. And like I said, the dates are kind of all being finalized right now. So the guys are looking at their calendars and seeing when they're available to go and everything. Like there's ones down at there's one out in Springfield, Mass. I'm not going to go to that. But the guys that live, on the other side of Foxborough down in that area, they're more inclined to go there, whereas I'm more inclined to go to the ones that are up here on the North Shore.
Sure.
That's kind of how it goes. You can't really. There's no certain list, but there's usually a good group of guys.
That makes sense. Max, proud to call you my friend. You're a great guy, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, Johnny.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye. So that just about sums up our first podcast here on Radio Northampton. I'd like to thank our guest, Bryan Kaenrath, Town Administrator, and former New England Patriot, Max Lane. We also want to let you know that we'll be coming on the line with more products, more interviews, more great chat, and especially giving you community notes and letting you know what's going on in town and around the seacoast. So for Troy Clidaris, our producer, and Luke Bednarik, our assistant producer, we'd like to say thanks, and we'll see you next time on Radio Northampton.